Every year in Canada, the flu, influenza, kills about 3,500 people and sends thousands more, some 12,000, to hospital. They're startling numbers, to be sure, and the research shows that most Canadians, despite those figures, continue to skip the shot. Last year, only 38% of Canadians were vaccinated, and that puts the most vulnerable populations at high risk for infection. So let's take a look at some of these numbers. The Public Health Agency of Canada has a target. It wants 80% of people in the vulnerable group, so seniors, kids, people with chronic illnesses, to get the flu shot. But in the country, we're far short of that goal. Only 39% of people with chronic illnesses get the shot. Only 37% of children. The good news is seniors are diligent. 71% of seniors are vaccinated and, in fact, have lots of questions about the flu shot. So whether you're still not sure whether you should get it or whether you've had it and have some questions, well, here we go, because we've got wonderful questions all morning, and Dr. Isaac Bogosh is with us, infectious disease specialist at Toronto General. Thanks for coming in. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Fortunately, we have Dr. Bogosh for 2 full hours. So if you don't get your question in this hour, we're going to get to yours in the next hour. Let's just lay out some general parameters before we jump to the viewer questions.
Sure.
Those numbers concerning, the target's 80%. In some groups, it's much lower than that. How concerning is that to you?
We definitely need to do better. We definitely need to do better as individuals, and we need to do better as a country to get more people vaccinated for influenza. As you point out, it's a serious infection. This is not the sniffles. This is not a cough or a cold. This is the flu, and it's a severe viral infection. And again, as you pointed out, about 3,500 Canadians will die on average each year from this virus. It's a bad virus. And, you know, we appreciate in the medical and scientific community that the vaccine, of course, it's not perfect, but it's the best we've got, and it does offer protection.
Not perfect, and some years it's more perfect than others, isn't it? Because they try to get the vaccine that matches with this year's strain, and they sometimes miss.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, last year was a good example of that. The vaccine last year just wasn't as good a match as we would have liked to hope. It offered a little bit of protection, but essentially it was definitely not as good as we would like to hope. The early data for this year shows that this year's vaccine will be a much better match. And again, regardless of how good a match it is, this provides people with protection against the flu. It protects people from getting the virus, and if people are unlucky enough to get the virus and they've had the vaccine, it'll likely enable them to have a much smoother ride and a less severe course of illness. So there's some very good reasons to get the shot.
Or protect others in their immediate surroundings.
100%, especially if they have vulnerable people that they're in contact with day to day. Little kids, elderly parents or grandparents, people who might have other medical problems as well. So it not only protects you, it protects those around you as well.
Here's something that we're hearing from our viewers this morning. I don't get the flu shot because, number one, history tells us it doesn't always work, so why bother if it's not going to work well? Secondly, hey, I'm a really healthy adult and I don't need to get one. But then you go a little bit further, and then you get to the whole issue of trust in vaccines. And some people are very strong in saying, no one's going to convince me the garbage you inject into the public is a solution. Or, you know, someone who says, I just cannot get over the mental barrier to cross to let someone introduce a virus into my healthy body. There are many people who just are never going to be convinced.
Yeah, I mean, these are very tricky problems to deal with, and I don't think there's one silver bullet to deal with all these issues. Certainly, this is reflective of a much bigger issue in society now, and that's vaccine hesitancy. So people might not be trusting of vaccinations. But for people who are sitting on the fence and who are thinking, you know, should I get it this year? Should I not get it this year? Just consider a couple of things. Firstly, if we look at those 3,500 people that die every year in Canada from influenza, a disproportionate number of them do not receive the vaccine. So even though year by year we know that there might be some years with greater vaccine effectiveness, some years with a little less vaccine effectiveness, it still offers some protection. Get the shot. Get the shot. Talk to your family physician or the public health clinic near your house about which one is best for you, but get it. It really does provide protection.
Okay, there are different kinds, and let's get into those.
Sure.
Let's begin with a question from Sandra Linklater, who wants to know, what is the timeline on the effectiveness of the shot? So the time from when you get it to when it actually begins to act and you're covered by the properties of the vaccine.
Sandra, great question. It's typically about 2 weeks. So once you get the shot, your immune system's looking at what was injected, and your immune system is really making some chemicals called antibodies against those components. And it happens, that process starts right away, but by about 10 days to 2 weeks, you will have protection against influenza.
Kathy Orr writing us from Aurelia. She'd like to know why the flu shot has to go into the muscle. This is really interesting because she's been getting the flu vaccine mist spray, but 60 and over not allowed to do that, and it hurts. So.
Right. No, that's a very good question, Kathy. And in fact, there is a product that can be given underneath the skin instead of right into the muscle. It's just not available in Canada. So that product does exist, and it might be licensed in Canada in the future. For now, I would say, you know, get the shot. Get the shot. This product is a bit, I mean, it will provide you with some protection against the flu. That's what's available here in Canada, and it's worthwhile getting.
Okay, we talked about that in detail last hour for sure. Why can't you use the nasal spray after 60?
Well, there's some data that's emerging that shows which types of vaccine will provide the best protection for different individuals. And it looks like this vaccine would be most protective against the flu in people 60 and under.
Okay. Yeah. Martha Cooper, this is a similar point. Is the nasal spray flu vaccine that children take, is that as effective as a shot for children?
Wow, that's a very good question. Short answer, yes, it is as effective. Little bit of a nuanced answer. People might recall that if in the United States that wasn't offered last year, and now it's offered this year in the United States. So essentially, a lot of the physicians and public health groups and vaccine experts are putting their heads together to look at all the data to see which of the several vaccines that are available are safe and effective. And it was thought that this year, Canada hasn't changed, but this year in the United States, for example, some of the recommendations changed. So that's why people might have been hearing, should I get it, should I not get it? The answer is it is safe in kids and it is effective in kids.
Okay, yeah. Pat Scarborough writing, what's the difference between the regular vaccine and the vaccine for seniors?
Oh.
Is that the high dose?
Yeah,
or
that's the high dose one. Pat, great question.
And we also had that from Sharon S. as well, who wrote the same thing. So obviously on the minds of those diligent seniors getting their shot.
Absolutely. So it looks like seniors will be provided with better protection against the influenza virus with a shot that really provides a little bit more of a kick, a little bit more of a boost to their immune system. And it really provides a bit better protection against influenza compared to the regular vaccine that people under the age of 65 are going to get. So there's good data that's emerged that shows that people 65 and older will have better protection against the flu with this higher dose flu shot.
Okay. Yeah. Even though that, if you're going to get sick, with the high dose, it seems to be people whom I know got sick with the high dose, and that gets us into a whole line of questioning. But here's a good example. Michelle Morale writing, my husband and I both have not received a flu shot in several years. We both feel that we've gotten really sick on the years that we chose to get the shot. Now we have a 10-month-old. We're rethinking our logic. Is there any truth to people getting sick after the flu shot?
So, Michelle, I would say that your thoughts are correct in that you should really rethink this decision to not get the flu shot. And in fact, lots of people say, you know what, I got the shot and I got sick. And in reality, we have to step back and look at this. This is Canada in November. There's about 1 million upper respiratory viruses circulating through every community. People are going to get a cough and a cold, and sometimes that's just going to be around the same time that you get a flu shot. The flu shot does not cause the flu. It causes a bit of a sore muscle where you get the flu shot, but it does not cause the flu, and it does not cause any illness. You'll get a bit of a sore shoulder for perhaps a day or two. Some people might have a few more muscle aches and pains, but really this is an extremely safe vaccine that's extremely well tolerated in over 99.9% of people that get it.
Okay. What about for a woman who is pregnant? Is it safe to get not just for the woman but for fetal development?
That's a very good point. And in fact, pregnant women are at greater risk if they get the flu of having a much more severe outcome and a more severe illness. So pregnant women should certainly get the flu shot. Now, there's many flu shots available. They should not get the intranasal one, the sniff one. They can get the
shot?
needle. Absolutely. Yeah.
These are big questions that are coming into us from mummy groups. So they all have similar questions, as you could totally understand.
But I think the key point there is that there are certain groups that are at greater risk of having more severe influenza. Pregnant women are certainly one of them. They're a vulnerable population when we think about influenza influenza virus, as are elderly individuals, young children, and people with other medical problems. So those people in particular have to be very careful about getting sick with the flu. And not only do they have to be careful about getting sick with the flu, but their family members around them have to be careful. And we should really be all protected so we can protect ourselves and protect our loved ones around us.
When you say, we've talked about seniors, but what is the earliest that a child can get a flu shot?
6 months.
6 months.
So it's recommended at 6 months and older. And of course, kids who are under 6 months of age are rather vulnerable to this infection. And you know, if there is exposure to young kids or infants around, the family members should be very careful about this. Remember, you pointed out earlier, 3,500 Canadians will die on average from influenza, and this is going to cause over 12,000 hospitalizations per year on average in Canada. So this is not a sniffle, this is not a cough or a cold, this is influenza. It's a very severe virus.
Okay, last question, and thank you for the fantastic questions, but someone who's already had the flu, do you still get the vaccine? Is it pointless to get it for later in the season, for example?
Yeah, I mean, it's November now.
I don't mean at any point in life.
Right.
I'm talking about this. So if I've had an early dose, do I get it again to protect me for later this year?
That's a very good question. So first of all, very few people have had the flu already in Canada. It's very early on in the year. Having said that, if you happen to fall into that category, remember the flu shot has several different strains of influenza virus in it. There's influenza A, influenza B, and it will protect you against the other circulating strains of influenza. It would be terrible to get 2 courses or 2 infections of influenza in a year. It can happen, and the shot protects against 3 or 4 different circulating strains of the flu. So if you had the flu, unfortunately, you still can get it again, and the vaccine really protects against 3 to 4 different strains that are circulating. So yeah, I would get the flu shot.
It still could have merit. And as we've been saying earlier, if you missed our earlier discussion, last year not so efficacious. This year they're thinking they got a much better match, so it is more protective this time around. Thanks so much.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Great to have you in for those couple of hours, and we'll do this again.